Man yells at cloud. What's up, everybody? Back for another Facebook Live. I think we're here. Holy shit, it's good to see you guys again. You guys are fucking legends. I'm actually like so excited just seeing you guys make money, build better systems, build what I feel like we're doing for real. Like I feel a little Justin Timberlakey today because I feel like we're bringing sexy back to the agency space. I'm not against the things people do. Like I see a lot of people send 10,000 outreach messages, and there's nothing wrong with that. It works. But to me, that's the equivalent of like modern day door knocking, where you knock on doors, and there's more efficient ways to bring people to you with leverage and videos and not having to do calls and having cool clients. And I just think it's a better kind of agency, and seeing you guys build that is really exciting. Two quick announcements just before we get rocking and rolling. Announcement number one. The immortal Jay Abraham is coming on this week. I don't know when I'll post the interview, but we're doing it. We're scheduled for tomorrow. He's a busy man, so it's not impossible. We could get rescheduled. It's happened before. But we're going to be talking about growing an agency in the middle of a recession, how to run campaigns for clients, things like that. Because often marketing is the first thing to go when shit hits the fan. And I want to show you guys how you can succeed when everyone else is losing. Jay's been around doing this for 40 years. For those of you guys who don't know him, he's credited with like $12 billion of business improvement. He's Damon John's mentor. He is Tony Robbins' mentor. Like when Tony Robbins pays somebody for marketing to teach them, it is Jay Abraham that he pays to do this one-on-one. So that's going to be huge. Check that out. The second thing is I've had a few of you guys ask me about the Wolfpack, and I'll tell you, the real thing we're doing more than anything else is helping people go phoneless and meetingless. The ideal person, I'll tell you if it's for you, if you're between like 5 and like 30 clients. There can be some exceptions on either side, but we help you scale it up without all the meetings and phone calls and all the riffraff. So it's getting your phone or your acquisition process phoneless, getting your systems and processes in place, getting your hiring in place, and then having a leveraged income machine that just builds clients without you having to be the one to do it. I call it the more beach, less laptop agency. So I want to show you guys how to do that. If you're interested in that, I got a video with pricing details, kind of, what you can expect on the inside if you guys are interested in it. And if not, that's cool too. I have other resources to help you guys who are not yet at that level or who are past that. We have some more intimate stuff, but just wanted to share that because I get people asking. We're very close to full. But anyways, enough rambling about that. Let's get into the good stuff. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, Frankie Fihn proudly brings you our weekly Q&A. I can hear Cole on the backup mics. What? Little wrestling homage. Let's get into the good questions. You guys are building cool agencies. Let's help you build some cool agencies. So, Paul says, any thoughts on adding TikTok ads one of your services in your agency? Paul, as always, I'm going to give you an it depends. A lot of people think there's universal answers to these questions, and they're really not. Okay, first thing I would say is it depends on what niche you're doing at. TikTok is not entirely, but it's a largely younger demographic. So if you're selling like financial services to 60-year-olds, then I'll tell you, stay the fuck away from TikTok ads. Having said that, if it's a product that has more broad appeal, like if you're helping a restaurant, by all means, run the TikTok. So that's the first thing is your audience there? Because if the answer to that is no, then you should definitely not. Secondly is, are you proficient at it? Like, can you actually deliver results with TikTok? I know you can get a bunch of cheap ads at scale, but can you convert it? The other thing is, clients are not buying TikTok. I know it's new and exciting and it looks like greener grass because it's probably easier to sell right now, but I'll tell you, marketers ruin everything. Give it 2 years from now and TikTok will be saturated, polluted, and fucked, basically. So what you want to do if you're doing TikTok, and this is really key, is help clients produce a meaningful result. So if you're going after a dentist, what is a result a dentist wants? If you're going after a plumber, what is a result? I call this the nickel and the $100 bill, but focus on selling them, sell their highest value thing. So if you're helping an online coach, they may have a $97 course and a $40,000 mastermind. All things being equal, use TikTok to help them sell the $40,000 mastermind. It's a better use of these platforms. And then build a system. And if you're going to do it, build it in such a way where you can copy and paste what works for one client to the next, so that you're like It's way easy for you to deliver to the second and the third and the fourth and the fifth client. Maybe a lot of work for the first client, but client 2, 3, 4, you're just giving them the same shit that's already working. So if that's the case, then by all means, jump into TikTok. Hetty says, as an agency, when running ads for clients, do you use their credit or debit cards to pay or yours? Hetty, always theirs. You're not a bank. You're not here to finance their ads. There is one exception, is when you have your shit dialed in, you may want to switch to a pay-per-lead model. Pay-per-lead is what I call, it's a deeper thing in what I call single unit of pricing. And the cool thing about single unit of pricing is you can disguise 10, 20, 30, 50, $100,000 a month packages by saying one lead costs $50 or $100 or whatever is standard in your niche. Obviously it'll vary, but like, let's say you're selling, in my case, it's very common in personal injury to sell a phone call for $100, right? You can sell phone calls all day long for $100. So if you can do that at scale, and like, let's say it costs you $50 to get it, you could sell tens of thousands of leads to big shot lawyers. And then in that case, you would take on the financing and you would use their card and you would just charge them a flat rate. You can do that model. It definitely works. But I would suggest only doing that after you have your shit a little bit dialed in. Otherwise, you're going to, like for me, if I was running campaigns for 5 lawyers and I knew for sure I can get $50 leads, like phone calls, then I might sell them at $100 a piece, that kind of thing. So only when you know your cost would that be the one exception. But otherwise, use the client's credit card. You're not here to be their bank. Sean says, curious what tends to be a Facebook agency's biggest problems when it comes to acquiring new leads and clients. I'll tell you what most people think it is, and then I'll tell you what it actually is after having built up so those of you guys who don't know, by the way, I'm not like a brag post screenshots, but I've built 3 different agencies to 100 plus clients, and you can do math, like what kind of volume that is. And like a lot of people, like they build one agency to $10,000 a month and then think they're qualified to speak on all things agency. I've built 3 of them and I still don't know that much about it. I'm still learning as I go. So when I say that, what most people think their biggest problem with Facebook ads is, or a Facebook ad agency, is they think it's some kind of outreach. They need an appointment setter. I see that commonly. Or they think they need just more leads coming in. And they think, they need a media buyer who's a home run hitter, like slam dunk. Those are the things I see most commonly. And the truth is, if I look at 8 or 9 out of 10 Facebook ad agencies, your fucking offer sucks or sounds too much like everyone else. Even if it's a good offer, it's past its prime kind of thing. And as a result, it makes your ads working harder, it makes your outreach harder, it makes your media buying harder. So there's like an underlying thing that creates the desire to want to get the media buyer or the outreach people. And what most people are trying to do is cover it up. Like they figure, if I just get an appointment center and they'll go make sales for me, whatever, it'll be great. But if you make your offer easy to say yes to, any appointment center can work, any ad can work. We found that like once you get it working, you can take it across platforms. So like I had a $50,000 a month webinar, like 4 years ago, 5 years ago, and I should say maybe 5, in the agencies or in the personal injury space. And what I found in doing that was that once we got the webinar working, all I had to do was take that webinar to LinkedIn and it worked. And then I gave an in-person speech and it was basically that webinar and it still worked. And I've done like direct mail with it and invited people to the webinar and it works, right? So like there's all kinds of things you can do. I've done content with it. I've done YouTube and like drive people to it. So once you have something, an offer that's working, like the whole thing gets downhill. What most people do in my experience is they swim against the current thinking that it's a volume problem. I need more leads. I need more media buyers. I need more appointment setters. And then what happens is if you have an easy to say yes to offer, you can contact like 10 people and end up closing like 3 of them. It's not unusual for us to send 5 letters in the mail. Count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 letters. And by the way, we use a service called Click to Mail, so it's not like I'm stuffing letters or anything. It cost me $5 to do a mailing, and we'll pick up like typically I'd say between 2 and 3 clients. So if you understand that, like how to make irresistible offers, your life will get a whole bunch easier. So that's my way of saying the principles never change. Facebook is a medium that connects you to people. Like, I really want you to understand that because a lot of times people get caught up in like scale your winners by this month and this switch and that toggle. At the end of the day, it's a tool to help you target people, run ads to them, offer those people something that hopefully is timely and valuable in their life. So if you think about having a really valuable offer everything about that will get easier. And so in my experience, what most people think the problem is and what it actually is are two different things. Aaron says, how much do you charge for local lead gen for a single restaurant? Aaron, this is a loaded question, a very, very, very loaded question, because a lot of times people take their value personally. Like, I charge $1,000 per month for my service and it's worth it. And the truth of the matter is, value is fluid depending on who you do it for. I learned this from a mentor who lives in a little town of about 30,000, and he said he was actually at the restaurant, and the restaurant said, "Hey, what do you do?" And he said, "I do marketing and like consulting and stuff like that." And he said, "Well, how much would it be to get you to do that?" And he said, "I start at $50,000 a year." And the guy went, 50 grand a year? Like, I don't even make that much running this little restaurant in this tiny little town. And he said what most people would do is in that situation is they would get offended and say my value is worth it. But the truth of the matter is, for one single tiny location restaurant with very little volume in a small town, there's probably no scenario under which he's going to be worth $50,000. So value is fluid for who you do it for and also who you bring to your clients. So I call this the double who. If you want to increase your value, what you can charge for like a restaurant is go after bigger restaurants that have 8 locations, 20 locations, are statewide or across 10 states, are mini chains, are starting to franchise, things like that. And bring them bigger who. So like if you bring them a takeout order, that's one thing. If you help them sell French fries, that's one thing. If you help them sell big birthday parties, that's another thing. If you help them get catering jobs, those are even bigger things, right? So one of the simplest things you can do to make your shit more valuable is think about who's their most valuable person. It might be like catering. I don't know because I'm not really in that niche. But just say you got them big wedding catering jobs. They would value those more than a $5 carryout order. They also value carry-out orders more than sit-down orders, so maybe you help them connect with those people. So you want to think about those two levels, like who am I going after as a restaurant? Is this a broke, struggling restaurant or a successful thing? And I'd say as a general rule, align yourself more with bigger, more successful businesses, and you will succeed. Like, it took me a lot of years to realize this, and it's actually, like, a lot of people think marketers are these terrible people, but it's actually because we have a big heart. We want to help everybody, but we end up oftentimes aligning ourselves with struggling businesses that will always struggle or maybe not even be around in a few years. And so what ends up happening is you want to help them and you want to help them, but you end up caring more than they do. And I say this as lovingly as we can, as I possibly can. We do not turn losers into winners. We help winners win more. Let me say that again, because that's a writer downer. We do not turn losers into winners. We help winners win more. So what you want to do is take successful restaurants, help them succeed more, and get bigger kind of deals and stuff like that. And if you do that, then how much you can price your lead gen is probably different than what most people think. You could probably price your lead gen at $10K a month for the right restaurant. And we actually have a guy in our mastermind who works with chain restaurants that have multiple locations, and I believe he charges them between $5 and $10K a month, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken on the numbers, but I believe it's in that range. And that's what you can do when you go after the right who. So my question to you is not how much should you charge a restaurant, but which restaurant are you going after, and who are you bringing them? The double who. Really think about that, and you can make your shit more valuable with small little tweaks, right? Like the difference between running an ad for, hey, come in and try our burger, and hey, running an ad for come in and try our catering is not that different, but the difference in results can be massive. So think a lot about who you want to do it for and who you want to bring them, and always think at the top end of the spectrum, and you'll get like immediately more valuable, and you need less clients to do, you know, big numbers. Kieran says, Frankie Fihn, do you have any YouTube videos for 1, 2, and 3 web design? The 1, 2, and 3 he's referring to is a post I made about, hey, web designers, if you want to get recurring income, you need a clear niche. You need a proven list of people who buy your stuff, the kinds of things you offer, and you need a recurring high-ticket, easy to say yes to offer. So I'll walk you through this kind of simple. Like if you're doing web design right now, what's up, Harvey? Good seeing you. If you're doing web design and you want to get into a situation where you want to transition to like recurring income and also like higher value stuff and like more easier deliverables, like nothing wrong with web design, but it's a lot of custom kind of grunt work. And if you're selling it as one off, every month you got to get new clients. You basically start At some point, you'll start at zero over and over and over and again, and it gets exhausting to build a business that doesn't have traction and doesn't have that kind of momentum. So let me tell you how I choose a clear niche is I choose an industry of people, and then I think about what is the most expensive thing they sell that they want to sell. And if you don't know it, you can always just ask. Like, even if you don't have clients, you can go into, like, I can go into an injury lawyers group and just say, what kind of cases do you want more of? And they'll answer, right? Even lawyers who are, like, difficult to talk to and stodgy. Same thing with dentists. What kind of patients do you want more of? They'll answer. What kind of customers do you want more of? So that's the thing I focus on, is building a system around the thing they want more of. Because it's not just for me when I say more beach, less laptop. I want my clients to experience more beach, less laptop. I want them to do bigger deals and less overall volume. So like a lawyer, if I bring him a $100,000 case, that's less work than if I bring him $25,000 cases, which is common in our niche. So even though like individually the one case that's $100,000 is more work than a $5,000 case, it's not more work than 20 of them, right? That's 20 clients to manage versus one client. So you want to think about, like, firstly, like, how can I pick a group of people in industry and then specialize in their most highest value service or product or thing like that? Because you make your life so much easier. What's up, Evans? I'm glad you like the gems. Second thing I think about, and this is a thing that not enough people think about, by the way. This is something I help people in our mastermind reverse engineer like gangbusters, is people don't understand that the second thing you need is a list of people who are proven to buy what you buy. I call this the shoe buyer's concept. And the idea is, if you're selling shoes, like if you think about like your marketing service as the equivalent of selling shoes, I know it's not actually shoes, but just go with me on the metaphor. And what most people do is they try and sell to people who are barefoot because logically those people need shoes the most. And it makes logical sense because they need shoes. And what we actually want to do is find the people who have 200 pairs of shoes in the closet and sell them another pair of shoes. Because there's always a reason they need another pair of shoes. Maybe they need hiking shoes, or they don't yet have dance shoes, or maybe the old Nikes have worn out and they need a new pair of basketball shoes. Whatever, right? Like, there's always a reason why somebody with 200 pairs of shoes needs another pair of shoes. And so before I reach out to somebody, and this is a part of a deeper idea I call less but better agency lead gen. If you email 10,000 dentists, the ones who will respond, almost like 9 times out of 10, are the ones who have 200 pairs of shoes in the closet because they buy it. And so I think about reaching out to less people in my niche that are more qualified. Like, I would rather pitch one buyer 100 fucking times in a row than pitch 100 people who are barefoot, right? And so, like, I'll give you an example of a barefoot person, just so you can wrap your head around this. I meet lawyers all the time who say, I've grown my practice 40 years with referrals and word of mouth. I'll never pay for Facebook ads. I don't even have a website. And that's cool. There's nothing wrong with that. But they make shitty clients and partners because they don't spend money on those guys. They don't buy shoes, right? So the first thing that I focus on doing before I do any outreach or mailing or targeting is I want to know, what the fuck are they buying? What are the other shoes? And I literally, if you understand this, I get the cheapest ads. Like, some of our ads right now is looking. We're getting like 4-cent buyer leads. 4 fucking cents. And all I do is, if I'm selling Reeboks, I go catch them at the Nike store and the Adidas store. I'm like for real, like, I'll see them buying a software or a tool and I'll advertise in front of the software and the tool. Or I'll see them buying like a competing SEO service. Like, here's an example in Google AdWords. And I've been meaning to do a training on this. I know I've been talking a lot about it, but I am going to get it done for you guys at some point in the near future. But like, a simple example is just bid on competition ads. So if I go to Google AdWords and I bid on like attorney marketing expert or dentist marketing expert, or like some of the things, or dental SEO and things like that, they're like 20, 30, 40 bucks a click. But if I take the top SEO company in the niche and or some of the top companies and I bid on their name, probably the only one bidding on their name. So I can be top of the first page with a 4-cent bid. So if you understand this, there's so many what I call side door opportunities to come in, but it comes from like understanding you want to get in front of people who buy, who own shoes, and offer them more shoes. You do not want to chase. Most people actually make their whole marketing like 1,000 times harder because they chase people who simply don't fucking buy this. I experienced this when I remember we ran an ad once for lawyers, and he said, like, he was a beginner guy and said, like, I really need to grow my practice. I'm ready to spend. And I remember we spent like $200 on Facebook ads. In the personal injury lawyer niche, like $200 is nothing, zero. And the ad suddenly shut off. And I was like, huh? And I couldn't figure out why. I was like, we're not banned? And then I realized, after I dug a little deeper, he had put a limit for the amount that the account was could spend on the water of $200. Like, that was the limit. And to me, this is the equivalent of like, hey, I'm going to learn to swim, and I'll put one toe in the pool and go, woo, the water's cold. I don't want in, right? And that's because he's not a fucking shoe buyer, right? So, like, if you'll make your life so much easier if you go after just the buyers in your space. Think about contacting less people, but more people who are proven to spend money. One of the easiest ways you can prove they're spending money is if they got the Facebook pixel and the Google Ads pixel on their website already. If they don't, they probably don't buy. That's at least 2 pairs of shoes, right? So you'll make your life easier. And then the third thing, if you want to transition, Kieran, to a recurring offer, I'm going to tell you the easiest way. Yeah, exactly. It's 2 fucking clicks. I'll tell you the easiest way to transition from single offer as a web designer to recurring. And it's so damn simple, and nobody does this, by the way. This is like a Frankie Fihn special, okay? They have done 100 years of testing on price, and what they found is what matters to people most in price for most things is the size of the payment. You see this all the time in cars and insurance. When they sell cars, they don't say, come in and give us $34,900. They say, just $500 down and $300 a month, and you can drive off the lot with a brand new whatever the fuck, right? And what makes the decision for people is this $300 a month. So if you're dealing with 10 clients, and let's just say your web design normally costs $1,000, what I would do is price it at 2 or 3 payments of $1,000. Now, what most people think will happen if you do that is you get all these people say, no, like I'm paying $1,000, but I won't pay 2 or 3 payments. But what will happen if you do that? 8 or 9 people, if they're willing to pay you $1,000, will pay you 2 or 3 payments of $1,000. And then this is really, really important, is work really, really hard to finish that web design in the first 30 days, because what will happen is on month 2 and month 3, they will owe you money and get nothing for it. And so the easiest transition to say is, hey, you're paying me $1,000 a month for your website and you're getting nothing. I would love to do some SEO, or I would love to do some paid ads for you to like drive some traffic to this site now that we built it. And I'm just going to give it to you for free for a month or 2, and let's do it as a trial. Now, nobody in human history ever says that, because they're paying for it anyway, and so they might as well get something out of it. And then what happens is, at the end of those 2-3 months, you just say, you know, we can just continue and you can just keep paying me $1,000 a month. And that's how you transition from like a single one-off web design to continuity with fucking ease. Now, there are other ways to do it. You can upsell people and do all kinds of things, or you can just sell them the marriage offer, the recurring thing right away. But I found the easiest way to do it is sell them the web design in 2 or 3 payments, and then it like leads itself into the recurring. Easy. And there's 100 years of consumer programming. This is how you buy a car. You don't ask how long are the payments going to be. You know, whether it's payments for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, it very rarely makes any difference. You just want to know, can I afford the $300 a month? And that's how most people will buy your web design. And if you do that, you'll sell so much more of it. And this is the thing. I want you to understand how powerful this is, because like we're keeping people a minimum of 2 years. Okay, so if you sell one website for $1,000, or you keep a client for 2 years at 24 payments of $1,000, that's $24,000 versus 1. That's 23 less web design clients you need to actually hit your goals in your business. And that's if they don't stay even longer than that. I mean, if you set this up right, like you'll have so much more income. You'll turn every client into a higher value client. Ergo, you need less of them. Like most people, to hit their goals, or most people I find in this space, they're just trying to hit like between 10 and like 40,000 maybe. Some have bigger goals like 100 or multiple 100,000 a month, but most people just want like 10 to 30 grand a month. We're talking 10 people. So you can definitely do that. Harvey says, I was actually thinking of building mini veneer implant websites for dental practices that are currently running ads in my area. I'll tell you, Harvey, we did something like this in the plastic surgery space years ago, and it crushed it. And I don't want to take the credit because it wasn't actually my idea. It was a client's idea. they said to me one day, like, hey, I want to get more mommy makeover patients. And I said, cool. And they said, I have an idea. Do you think this would work? They said, could you build us a mini website that's just about mommy makeovers? And of course, it's no different than any other web design. Of course, we can do it. So we said, yeah. And then they said, do you think there's like people searching for mommy makeovers? So I loaded up the Google keyword tool and went, yeah, there's people searching for it. Like, it's not like crazy high volume, but it's definitely not zero. And there were like, 500 searches a month for various keywords. Yeah, we can definitely get in front of those. And then he said, if we rank that, like did SEO on that, do you think like we would get mommy makeover patients? And I was like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. Let's try it. And we did. And what I found is whenever I would go talk to new plastic surgeons, they always wanted the mini website. So there's a lot of principles that go into it. Firstly, it's an add-on, so you're not competing. Even if they have a website, even if they have a Facebook ads guy, even if they have an SEO guy, you're not trying to replace them, right? Like, you're not saying you have to fire somebody to hire me. You're saying, hey, let your SEO guy do his thing. I just want to build this mini website. And I found it's an amazing first date offer to help them sell the thing they most want to sell. I call this the $100 bill. As you know, veneers and implants. For those of you guys who are not in the dental space and don't understand Harvey's point, this is their expensive, like $35,000 thing that they wish they could sell more of. So if you show up and say, hey, I want to build you a mini website and rank it to sell your really expensive thing, like, I'd be shocked if you don't crush it. And, like, they want it. So, like, dude, and then of course, if you show that to proven buyers, you put those two things together. To illustrate the power of the buyers, by the way, I just want to make a point. Imagine this is how important getting the right buyers list is. Imagine, for example, your product is barbecue pork ribs, and you go to the Jewish Vegetarian Conference. How much pork ribs do you think you're going to sell at the Jewish Vegetarian Conference? And the answer is fucking zero. There's no offer, there's no copy, there's no messaging, there's no outreach, there's nothing you can do that can overcome the fact that they're just simply not pork rib buyers, and they never will be. I want you to imagine, for example, you go to the Alabama football game and you say, we got all you can eat barbecue pork ribs for $13.99. You probably have a line half a stadium long for people going, I'm going to get me some ribs, right? So this is how important nailing the buyers list is. If you get this right, like, you'll make your life easier. I hope I'm saying your name right, Arihan. I'm in the kitchen remodeling niche and struggling to sign clients for their lead gen. Any thoughts on that? There could be a few things. I would love to hear a little bit more about what you're trying. The first thing is, like I mentioned, the biggest reason people struggle is because they chase businesses who don't spend money. I'll give you an example of this, of like just how crazy this is. I've told this story before, but it really illustrates the point. I was partnered with a buddy of mine in the group. His name's Dan Crystal. Awesome guy. We like 10 years ago, we were doing SEO, and then we figured out this rank and rent model. Like, I'm sure other people had done it, but in our mind, we invented it. I'm like, sure other people like also came up with the idea simultaneously. But in our world, we're like, if we just build a website and rank it and sell the leads, we don't have to wait for a client to hire us. So we got this idea we would just generate leads and charge for the leads, and we wouldn't have to do SEO reports and invoicing and meetings about SEO. And I remember he wanted to do it in the roofing space. It turned out not to be the niche for me. But one of the first clients we got, like who agreed to buy leads from us, was a roofer named Eddie. He was in Louisiana. And I'll never forget this phone call. One of the first phone calls we generated. Now, we have call recording, so I can listen to the phone call. And the person calls up and says, hey, is this like 5-star roofing? And Eddie's wife answers the phone and goes, hello? Hello? Yeah, is this 5-star roofing? Hello? And they put the phone down. She goes, yeah, one second. She goes, Eddie, come answer the fucking phone. And then Eddie's like, why are you always bitching at me? And they proceeded to argue for like 7 fucking minutes. All day long. And then Eddie got on the phone and was like, you need a roof? Now, you would be shocked to learn that Eddie did not close that deal, right? Like, and he did not get that roof. Now, about a week later, I gave up on roofing. I was like, dude, these roofers are too crazy for me. But it was maybe a couple weeks later. Dan messaged me. He got this guy who owned 30 roofing locations. And the guy came to him, and they met in person. He was local to him. He came to him in the Baltimore area. And he came to meet him in a McLaren F1. For those of you guys that don't know, at the time, it's the fastest production car in the world. It cost $1 million to get one. He brought a Gucci bag, and he reached in the Gucci bag, and he took out $10,000, slapped it on the table, and said, I came here to spend money. What's it going to cost me to get you to help me generate roofing leads across the state? And I think the first deal he did with that guy was like a profit share deal where he made like 12 or 14,000 or something like that. I have the message saved because I thought it was so cool. But that illustrates the first reason people struggle is they're just going after the wrong people. If you go after Eddie the roofer, there's no message you're going to make. So the first thing I look for is, are you going after proven buyers? The second thing I look for is, what are you actually offering them? What most people offer is what I call the hammer, which is your tool. Hey, I can run Facebook ads. I can do Google. I can do SEO. I can do web design, those kind of things. Your offer is not your tool. Just like if a restaurant exists, their offer is not, we're a restaurant. Their offer is, come in and get barbecue pork ribs, a beer, and a dessert for $12.99, and we also have a live band playing tonight. That's the offer, and that's the piece you want to work on. So I'll give you a cheat code for getting in the door with clients that leads in to selling your thing easily. I call this single unit of pricing. Is if you can do it and you know your cost, to just go into the door and be like, would you pay, $100 or $80 or $50, whatever, for one blank lead, in your case, kitchen remodeling? And almost always they'll say, yeah, I would pay that much for a single lead, and then just offer to sell them a tiny little package as a prove it deal. And then when they like it, sell them more. But exactly, Nick says you'll go broke selling the broke. Yeah, Arhan, I feel you. You're in India, and as a result, like, there's just a lot of people. I'm one of them. I've been burned by a lot of Indian guys. I've had some really cool people too. So, like, I get, like, not everybody from India is a scammer, but, like, there's a reputation you inherit you didn't deserve. I always joke with this about personal injury lawyers, like, because they have a bad reputation too. Like, everybody hates lawyers, and I say to them, like, the only people who have a worse reputation than you are us. Like, marketers have a shitty reputation. So you have two reputation things going against you, which is, reputation thing number one is you're a marketer, so people hate marketers. Reputation thing number two is you're in India, and people are scared to work with people in India. So you're going to have to do two things to do that. You're going to have to shrink the size of the ask, and you're going to probably have to do some risk reversal. So it's like, hey, I'll generate you 5 kitchen remodel leads, and you can pay me after the leads are generated. But make sure you only offer that to people who are proven to buy. But if you do something like that, you'll be able to get your foot in the door, and they'll learn to trust you experientially. Are we still doing rank and rent, Chris? No. My model's gotten, like, increasingly more sophisticated. So I'd say there's been 3 major iterations in our agency, and we're actually working on the 4th. The 4th version, this is what I'm most excited. So what we're doing right now is mostly, I got a bunch of injury lawyers, and I run giant retargeting campaigns. I call them omnipresence, and retargeting is super cheap. But what I do that's a little bit different is I follow them, like, people across platforms. So it's not like just Google retargeting or Facebook or just TikTok or Twitter. Like, I use them all, so, like, that law firm becomes everywhere, and it's super, super cheap. And I do this for big firms that have a lot of flow. So that's kind of what we're doing now. But where I want to take it over the next year is I'm going to be running more like back-end stuff, meaning like only campaigns to customers. So I'm doing this right now with a big real estate guy. It's like a $10 million a year company. We email his customer list and say, we have a special right now. We have a couple extra employees. In his case, he has virtual assistants. He places them. They can help you do this, this, and this. If you're interested, fill this out, and somebody will contact you. I either call them myself or have somebody from my team. In the first little bit, I've called him myself. It's not our traditional sales call because they already know who he is and what he offers, and they're just interested, like, hey, I had a question about the special. Could I sign up on the 14th because I have money tied up on this real estate deal? Shit like that. And so far, like, on that deal, like, I think we've closed about $6,000, and that's like take-home commissions. And it took me about 5 minutes of phone calls. So the next iteration of my agency is I want to have 3 to 5 back-end clients that are really, really big and do like anywhere from like $1 million to $2.5 million, and only be selling customers. I don't want to deal with any front-end shit. The longer I do this, the less I'm interested in any of that. So that's the direction we're going. Who knows how it'll work out, but I see it as a better model, so that's kind of where we're going. Exactly. Zach says, go to shoe buyers. Oscar says, my niche kind of need 30 days to get enough leads to make a difference. How would you tackle a mini offer for lead gen when you know now they won't see enough results for a week? There's nothing wrong, Oscar, with doing 30 days. Like, we just want to shrink the size of the ask. I've actually done first dates as long as 90 days. So it's okay to have like a 90-day first date. But where it's like a challenge is like when I used to do SEO, I would go up to people, and these were like plastic surgeons I would meet at conferences and shit like that, and I would say to them like, hire me for SEOs. I would charge like anywhere from like $1,000 to $2,000 a month. My pricing was very arbitrary in those days, but and then I would say, and we need a year to make it work. And then they would say, well, is it for sure going to work? And I'd say, well, I can't guarantee that because Google's kind of crazy and blah, blah, blah. And so what I'm asking somebody to do from an offer perspective, I'm saying, give me a lot of money for a long time. Like wait a really long time and hopefully it'll work, but no guarantees. And so that's hard to say yes to. And this goes against how relationships are formed in the real world. Like if you met a chick at the bar, you wouldn't say, hey, you seem really cool. Now date me for the next year. We'll have this many dates a month and blah, blah, blah. Like it would just be too much. And so what I like to do is design a first date that automatically leads into marriage. I saw this perfectly in Jeff Miller's group. There was a guy who said, I can design a video and a thumbnail for $50. And he had all these people who wanted to buy it from him like immediately off the thread. Now that's only $50. It's not a major decision. But what ended up happening is, of course, when somebody buys one video, what else do you think they're going to buy? More videos, right? So we wanted to, whatever your first date is, it can be 30 days. All you're trying to do is just not get them to have this massive commitment out of day one. But of course, the date is designed so that when the date goes well, they can just keep continuing onwards. And so you actually sell more marriages by selling the first date. But it also helps you screen the clients. Because what ends up happening, like if that client's a pain in the ass or they're difficult, or maybe it's just harder to get them results than you thought, like they don't answer their phone or something like that, you don't have to continue on. You don't have to offer a second date if you don't like the client. So it helps you be the one in control and be the selector. So that's why I like doing that model. But there's nothing wrong with a 30-day first date. Just say like, hey, we need 30 days. I see this when companies eventually reach a point where they're so big they don't have time to do first dates and they just want to sell their marriage. I've got a guy I know in the lawyer space named Bill Hauser. They're like a $20 million agency or something like that. And they sell most of their stuff from Stage. So imagine this. They're selling like 20, 30, 40, 50 lawyers into their like SEO package thingy all at the same time with no sales call. And what they do in order to sell that marriage is they say, you can try it for a year, but just so you know, we put a 30-day period where if for any reason you're not happy, you can back out. So that's like the equivalent of like, it's still a first date with continuity built into it. So you can do stuff like that. Nick says, what numbers do you use to test ad campaigns, when to stop, when to tweak, especially on Facebook? Woohoo, breakfast is showing up. Thank you. This is a little bit like, kind of depends on your niche, but I'll tell you my first secret to writing like really crushing it with Facebook ads is not what people think. Like I have people come to me over and over and over and ask me, where is this amazing fucking awesome media buyer? And like they're a little bit hard to find, this amazing awesome media buyer. What I found is easier. If you sell a really expensive thing, you have so much margin to be wrong. So like in the lawyer space, if I sell traffic tickets cost are like somebody gets fined when they're pulled over for speeding. The ticket's anywhere from like $100 to $300. If it's $100 to $300 tickets, do you think somebody's going to spend $40,000 to fight it? Of course not. So like the lawyer will typically make like $100, and they often hire a paralegal or pay one of their paralegals to go fight it in court, which costs them $100. So they spend $100 and make $100. And so what happens is when your margins are small, you need really, really, really tight margins. When you sell really high-end shit, so we've been for at least a few years, we were selling like motorcycle cases, which are like $25,000 to $80,000 cases. I can spend $10,000 and get one case, and the lawyer will be happy. So how we do our Facebook ads is really, really simple. To answer your question, I took a computer science class in college that I had to take, and they created something called if-else statements, where if like grades would be an example. If you got above 90, it's an A. If you got between 80 and 89, it's a B. If you got, and then else, so forth. Like you get the idea. And so we just created like our campaigns for our virtual assistants. If the leads are less than $10, just keep fucking running the ads. And we have it set up in our process so they check twice a week. So if the leads are sub $10, just fucking keep running it. Leave it alone. If they're between $10 and $20, we have a process for try a new image, change this, change that kind of thing. Usually it's the image, the first thing we change. And then if they're above $20, we have an ad library and we say, go back and get a new ad and try again. And the best case scenario, by the way, is when we don't have to change them and we can just leave them running for a long ass time. But that's how we do it. And the secret to driving all of that and making it work is that we have really fucking high margins to be wrong. I see this all the time with e-commerce people where they're like, I spend $1 million a month, but it costs me $1 million and I'm not actually making any profit. Like that to me is counterproductive as a reason to be in business, especially if like you have a lifestyle business. If you just like want to have a cool life for you and your family and your friends. So that's my way of saying if you specialize in the expensive thing, you'll have better margins. And then there's actually a lot of ways to make Facebook ads work. And you don't even need a good media buyer. My Facebook ads guy, who's in this group, by the way, has never ran Facebook ads in his life before working with us, and he just follows our processes and our steps and our checklist. So the high margins are the biggest secret to that. Chris says, do you offer consulting services for other agencies? I'm up to 150 clients, recurring revenue payers in a year. Just need an objective opinion on obvious omissions and opportunities. Yes, Chris, we can do that, especially if what you're looking to do at 150 is probably like systematize your management. I know when I was at like 150-ish, like it's chaotic. At least it was for me. Like I didn't have the structure and stuff in place. So maybe I'll give you a shout out and reach out because I know what that's like for real. Like my phone and I must have checked my email 100 times a day, my text messages. So if that's you, like I get it. We'll talk after on that. That's a little private question. Okay, so Nick says based on CPL, ROAS, and high margins in order to test with room for error. The key is those last three words, room for error. I don't want to do anything like if I have to sell a $20 plastic trinket and my profit margin is $8.50, and that means as soon as I spend $8.51, I'm losing money. Like that's really hard to work. I'm not saying it can't be done, but that's when people go, I need this heroic media buyer and he has to work cheap. I much prefer, like, I'm selling an $80,000 thing, and I can be wrong all over the place. I can do stupid shit. I can waste money and screw up. And still, if we just get one person for, like, $10,000, that client will be happy and they'll want to sell more. And it's actually more valuable to the client. Do you think clients want to sell $80,000 things or $850 trinkets, right? So that's the other thing is it's more valuable for them. I'm just going to the next question we got on the list. Alon says, what would you do? Got a referral for a new client. I already have one in the same area. I don't have exclusivity with my existing client. Do I bring on the new client? The downside of this, by the way, is eventually you start competing with yourself if you have too many clients in an area. And I'll tell you, usually for me, I was always cool with two clients in the same, like if it's a large geography. So like, for example, if I took a plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills, I'd be willing to take on another plastic surgeon in Beverly Hills because, there's usually enough room for both of them to be successful. But, a lot of that is just expectations and framework you set with the client. But you don't want to take too many in a geographic area because you will compete with yourself. Like if you're trying to rank a website, there's only so much first page real estate to be had. So obviously you got to make that work. And so my always magic number was 2 in a big city, 1 in a kind of a smaller city. I'm not saying that's the only answer, but that's just kind of how I did it so I didn't compete with myself. Jake says, hey guys, finished the book, Frankie, and I loved it. We'll be reading again soon. I have a question as someone who's brand new to the space, coming from an IT background. I love the section about using emails as a 7-day first date and targeting past customers. I'd like to get started and avoid analysis paralysis, but having no experiences with this, what can I do first to achieve the necessary skills to utilize the hammer? Do I need to go learn copywriting or programs such as MailChimp? What do you recommend? Books? Looking to take those first baby steps? Any advice is super appreciated. Jake, this is the stage you're in. What I find a lot of people do, so this is like the beginner kind of going to 0 to 1 stage. And the worst thing that people can do in this stage is what I call rearranging the sock drawer, which is like getting ready to get ready. Okay, I know I need to do this, but I'll get ready. So there's really 2 things you need to do in that stage, okay? And everything else is kind of pointless. I see people make their website and update their logo and do all those things. And what you need to do, pick a niche of people so you can narrow your focus and get in front of those people and offer them something. And that's really all there is to it. Whether you offer them something through like content and it's more seductive, or you do outreach, or you do a paid ad, it really doesn't fucking matter. But you have to get in. There's no magic way clients are just going to magically come through the door. But a lot of people do things in that stage that they think are getting ready for clients. And the reason they do that is because on the inside, they don't feel ready to take on a client. And I'll tell you, the truth of it is a lot of times people think as a marketer, you have to show up as like these huge hypey promises. So I mentioned this back end deal I'm doing with this real estate guy who's pretty well known, works with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. And this real estate guy, when I reached out to him, I didn't reach out and say, I can make you $100 gazillion fucking $1 million, blah, blah, blah. Like that's how most marketers lead out. I just reached out and said, I have a really cool idea that I think would work for you. But honestly, I'm not sure. You open to running a little test? Because I think maybe we could produce this result, but I'm not. If the test doesn't work out, like I'll make you look good and it'll, be good with your client. But I don't reach out and make things I can't keep. And we think it's not okay. Like you can't go to a client and say, hey, I had a cool idea for you and I think we could accomplish this together. But honestly, I'm not sure. Would you be open to running a little 7-day test? And if it works, we can do that. You think you can't be honest with clients and you have to show up as like, I got it figured out. I'm the greatest copywriter. By the way, anybody who can tell you who's done this for a long time, regardless of how good you are at this shit, you will have more failures than successes. Like I actually was talking to Ryan Dice about this at Traffic and Funnels, not the most recent one, but a couple years ago. I kind of got him off in the corner of a room. We had a little private conversation. He told me if they launched 300 ad campaigns for digital marketer, a known brand in this space, he said we expect 8 of them to succeed, which means they fail 292 times. So there's a tendency to think that you have to have it all figured out. You have to show up as like, and it's actually counterproductive. You can be totally honest with clients. And also I should mention, on our homepage, Beyond Agency Profits, you can sign up. There's a campaign on the thank you page that you can use. You don't have to figure this shit out. Just grab a campaign that's already fucking worked. It's a modification of Frank Kern's 4-day cash machine, by the way, which has worked for like 15, 20 years in multiple markets. So you don't need to like be this person who's got it all figured out. Just show up and say like, I had a cool idea. You open to running a little test. That's it. Do that. Get in front of people. Don't be one of those people who tries to get 27 certifications to get ready and constantly rearranging the sock drawer. The biggest qualification you need to have is that you can actually help a client. The only way you can know if you can help a client is to try something together and see if you guys gel well together. And no matter how long you do this, you won't be able to help every single client. Alex says, hey guys, what invoicing software do you suggest for automated billing? I want to set it up from the get-go. Currently I have Wave, but every now and then a client will deny automatic billing. Is there a software that doesn't give clients that option? Yeah, just Stripe. We use automated billing with Stripe. And part of it, by the way, this is a twofold thing. One of it is like the software and the tool, but the other thing is the expectation. I just tell clients like, hey, I'm really bad at invoicing and billing, so we just have automated software that does it. And if that's a problem for them, typically I just won't work with that client. If there's like an exception, like sometimes they'll say like, hey, we're really big and we have an accounting department and they have to, just for tax reasons, go for everything. Can you send a copy of the invoice? I'll get them to get an automated copy or whatever. But for the most part, I don't chase clients for money and I don't recommend you do either. So Stripe, plus set the expectation that that's just how you work. Magic phrase to use, by the way, here's how I work. That's how you enforce boundaries with clients. Here's how I work. We do automated billing. I don't chase people for money or anything like that. If that's a problem for you, let me know. Here's how I work. I don't take phone calls. I'm going to update you every second Friday. I'm going to let you know what's going on because we don't really have time for phone calls. Here's how I work. Our office hours are Monday and Friday from 1 till 4 o'clock. That's when we take phone calls. So you use expectations to enforce your boundaries, and you'll be amazed if you just tell clients, here's how I work, and say it like with confidence and certainty. They'll do whatever the fuck you tell them because for the most part, they're looking for you to guidance of how this whole process is supposed to go. Micah says, what's your preferred CRM for your business? Micah, I'm probably the shittiest person in the world to ask, because as we do more and more of this, I want less but better in all things of our agency. So I've like when I first started my agency, I had like so many software and tools, especially when I did SEO. I can remember actually one of my like strongest tools, there was a tool called SE Nuke, and it could post like automated blogs and things like that. And I took the time to like write really well handcrafted shit and then use the tool to automate the posting of it. Then one day, like Google just decided they hated SE Nuke and all the SE Nuke generated properties and things like that. They just saw as spam and like the whole thing stopped working. And I found since about 2007, I've learned between 10 and 30 new software tools a year, every year. And so my goal in this is like the longer I do this, the less I want software. So I got Loom. I got an email software in Aweber, and I use Aweber because it's the simplest fucking one to use. And I try and get rid of tools. We have Asana to track like our project management. And those are really like my only go-to tools. So this is not a good answer, but our CRM is Google Docs. I just have all our stuff in a spreadsheet. And the reason I'm able to do that is because I'm not trying to contact millions of attorneys. I only want to talk to the couple thousand or so that are the biggest spenders. And so there's 3 million attorneys in America, a much smaller percentage, like maybe 1 million who are personal injury. And then of those million, there's probably 100,000 who actually spend money. And of those 100,000, there's like a top 1%, which is maybe like 3 to 5,000 of them. I'm only trying to go after those 3 to 5,000. And because of that, I don't necessarily need like a really super sophisticated CRM. I just need all their names in a list with addresses and their various social media and how to contact them and where they go and all those kind of things. And we just reach out and prospect with that. I'm not saying that's the perfect system for everyone. It most definitely will not be. But if you do this longer and you just want to do less but better and more focused effort and make more money doing less, then you don't really need those. Like I said, 3 tools, Loom, Asana, and what else are we rocking? Aweber. Those are my like 3 go-to. Oh, I use Lead Pages to create landing pages. So I guess 4 things. But for the most part, we're pretty software light. Oh, and I use Zapier to connect Facebook ads and our Aweber, whatever something in the back end needs Zapier or Zapier, whatever you call it, to connect. But less tools, man. I'm just the longer I do this, the less I'm interested in tools. Not saying that's the right solution for everybody. We have some people in our mastermind that have really sophisticated go high level setups, and I think they're really badass. So I'm not like discouraging you guys from doing that. But I always find the tools are glitchy and they have a limited shelf life. Like the longer you do this, the more you'll see like tools come and go. Like 5 years ago, ClickFunnels was the hottest shit ever. Now, like you practically can't give away. They had to create a whole new version because nobody wants it. So. Yeah, I don't know if any of you guys have any other questions. Now's the moment to forever hold your peace. Otherwise, we're going to jump off here. One little quick announcement before we go. For those of you guys who missed the beginning, thing number 1, we got the legend himself, Jay Abraham, who's credited with like $12 billion. Tony Robbins' mentor, Damon John's mentor from Shark Tank. He is like the probably number 1 marketer on earth. And we're going to be talking about recession stuff because often when you run campaigns for people, the first thing to go is the marketing budget, and we want to show you guys how to succeed in any market, really, and show you what's working. So we're going to be deep diving on that. I'm just going to be picking Jay's brain. It's all just him being cool and me hopefully asking a couple intelligent questions along the way. That is tomorrow. I don't know when I'll post the recording. I don't do stuff live because I have kids and I can always be interrupted by a naked, crying, screaming baby. So that's the reason why it's a little bit pre-recorded. But if you guys have any questions you want to ask him, just shoot me a private message and I'll do my best to ask him. As well, for those of you guys who've been asking me at the mastermind, we are so close to full in there. But for those of you guys who are interested, it'll be ideal for you. Usually if you're between 5 and 30 clients, it also like works if you're beyond that. But what we most help people to do is scale without meetings and phone calls and to do like this less but better. So you have a tight niche, tight deliverable. Your sales process is phoneless. Your onboarding process is phoneless. You've got a copy and paste deliverable, and you have systems and processes for delivering all your communication. So all that happens without you having to do that, and you can manage 50, 100, 150 clients if you want, much easier. I call it the more beach, less laptop agency. That's the greater idea behind it, is that we want to deliver value and systems to clients, but without being like, crazy busy in the process. So if you guys are interested in that, reach out. I got a video. It has all the details like price and, when we meet and, other shit that's included and tools and templates and that kind of shit. So if you're interested in that, give me a holler. Otherwise, guys, thank you so much for sticking with me. 54 minutes. I'm actually about to talk with Jay Abraham's daughter in 20 minutes, and that's about something else. I'm running a back-end deal with those guys. And again, I didn't show up as the whole like, hey, I got it all figured out. I'm this genius marketer. More like, hey, I had an idea. Do you think you'd be open to running a little test? So anyways, that's all I got for you guys this week. May the force be with you. Much love for you guys. Thank you guys for all the awesome questions.